Good morning, everyone. And could I just start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting on here this morning, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, both past and present. I'd like to thank the Victorian Safer Communities Network and the Australian Institute of Criminology for inviting me to discuss this important topic. I've been asked to speak about challenging the culture of violence in the public and in the private domain. The culture of violence that seems to go hand in hand with alcohol, particularly amongst young people. And it's a challenge that our police members and other police jurisdictions face on a day-to-day basis. We've been working hard to combat this culture, and we have a number of programs, policies and initiatives in place to help drive down assaults. I just hope I get this right. So, first of all, it's important to put instances of violence within Victoria into perspective. The most recent official police statistics show that in the city of Melbourne, where many of the alcohol-related assaults occur, assaults have increased by 3.7%. When family violence incidents are excluded from that, it's a rise of 1%. But really, it's just not good enough. Victoria Police members all agree this is still far too many assaults that are occurring, and particularly in the public domain. The abuse of alcohol and the subsequent proliferation of antisocial behaviour is something we're all aware of. We live in the digital age, where CCTV images of alcohol-fuelled assaults are available at the touch of a keyboard. It's a fact that many Australians like to drink, and there's nothing wrong with that, provided it's in moderation. But this attitude, especially amongst younger people and the younger generation of drinking till we're plastered, is just not acceptable. The culture that we see and the culture that we experience, that it's just cool to get drunk, is a culture that we collectively have got to work to change. And that sort of culture, as I said before, is something that faces police officers around Australia and our colleagues in New Zealand, on a daily basis. And it's something that our people are probably getting sick and tired of, I would think to say. As a community, we all need to take a stand. We need to let people know that this sort of antisocial behaviour is just not acceptable. The reality of this behaviour is often a tragic one, with the abuse of alcohol leading to violent and criminal consequences. One only needs to speak to the victims of those violent assaults or families left behind to see the true human cost of excessive alcohol consumption. And this also extends into the private domain, within the confines of individual homes. Unfortunately, family violence plays a big part in police work. I've been to many incidents myself, and it's not an easy job for police to walk into a family home and into their private space and intervene and intercede in these matters. But it's something we have to do daily. Crime statistics show that police were called to 35,720 family violence incidents in 2009, and that was a 29% increase from 2003-2004 figures. There was also 9,229 intervention orders and family violence safety notices issued in 2009. This too is an increase of more than 250% over the past 6 years. Likewise, there was a 200% increase in the number of charges laid relating to family violence incidents over the past 6 years. It would be easy to assume that this rise in reports means more violence is happening at home, but that is not necessarily the case. In more recent years, Victoria Police has taken family violence incidents more seriously, with a stronger focus on the safety of victims, usually women and children. While the number of incidents is high, we do not shy away from that. We've put a lot of effort into encouraging family violence incidents to be reported, and it's heartening to see that the level of trust victims are instilling in police by reporting what can be an intensely personal and distressing crime. As mentioned before, the fact that Australians like to drink and alcohol is a massive contributor to our economy. In Victoria alone, restaurants, bars and clubs represent around 2% of all businesses, employing more than 80,000 people and contributing to $3.4 billion annually to the Victorian economy. This, to a degree, has helped shape our culture as warm, friendly and sociable people. But acknowledging many benefits derived from the entertainment and alcohol industries, we cannot be blind to the risks. Alcohol-related crime is estimated to cost Australia $1.7 billion a year, with $750 million alone being spent on policing. It is also a major cause of death and hospitalisation, with 3,000 lives lost per year and 65,000 hospitalisations. These figures are big, and they're getting worse, and they only tell half the story. Perhaps more worrying is that the nature of violence is getting worse. It used to be that when a young bloke was knocked down, that was the end of the fight and the offender walked away. This is no longer the case. These days, the aggressor is likely to invite his friends to join in, or perhaps even with weapons, and in some cases, only stopping when the victim lays on the ground motionless. One of the things that we've seen over recent years is that whilst assaults have varied in terms of their numbers from time to time, but it's the intensity of some of the assaults has been far more aggressive, far more serious. We've seen a number of occasions, where it's been the one punch, and the victims fall onto the ground and fractured their skull, and unfortunately they've lost their lives. Illicit drugs can also play a part in changing people's behaviour and making them more prone to risk-taking behaviour. Users of drugs, such as ice, can have a tendency to become violent and lash out at those around them. Drugs have been highlighted in the media over the past 12 months, with the release of the Ben Cousins documentary and the fall from grace of television star Matthew Newton, who has admitted to drug, alcohol and mental health problems. Both these cases show two young men, seemingly at the top of their games, living the dream of many young people, only to have it fall apart due to their addiction to illicit substances. Drugs present yet another challenge for police when trying to tackle violence on the streets. I've spoken about the issues of alcohol and drug abuse or drug use in young people, and both of these substances can contribute to young people becoming victims or perpetrators of assaults. The risk of being assaulted or committing an assault increases for those under the age of 25. Young people have been strongly overrepresented as victims of assault in the last 2 financial years. In 2008-2009, 10,191 people aged between 10 and 24 years of age were victims of assault, while that increased the following year to 10,434. The chances of being the perpetrator of an assault also spiked in this age demographic, with 12,891 alleged offenders processed for assaults in 2008 and 2009, while that figure rose to 13,244 the following year. While dealing with assaults on the street presents its challenges for Victoria Police, so does family violence. Incidents of family violence are another challenge for Victoria Police, and police attend many of these, as I said before, on a daily basis. I mentioned earlier in the presentation some of the statistics that highlight how reporting of these crimes has skyrocketed in recent times. Police were called to 29% more family violence incidents in 2009 than we were in 2003-04. In the past 6 years, there's been a 250% increase in the number of intervention orders and family violence notices issued. But when looking at these figures, it's also important to know that there has also been a 200% increase in the number of charges laid. Family violence affects individuals from all corners of the globe. It transcends cultures, environments and communities. It can take many forms, including violent, threatening, coercive and controlling behaviour that occurs in current or past family or in intimate relationships. Over the last 7 years, Victoria Police has worked hard to improve its response to family violence against women and children, including making them feel more comfortable and confident in reporting to police. So what are we doing about these problems? Victoria Police is committed to reducing the incidence of violence both on the streets and in the home. We have a number of programs, policies and initiatives in place to help engage young people, make victims feel more confident in reporting family violence, and to generate and make Victoria a safer place. And I want to discuss some of these in detail. Due to the increased risk of young people becoming victims or perpetrators of assault, Victoria Police is working to reduce these incidents in many ways. Many Victorian police stations have a youth resource officer working as part of the proactive team. The youth resource officer's job is to identify youth issues in the area, develop mentoring relationships between police and young people, interact with youth of all ages, races, socio-economic backgrounds, and establish early intervention programs. Youth resource officers also have a role in changing the perception of police for young people who come from countries with a wide mistrust of police, such as Africa and Iraq. There are many examples of excellent youth-related programs going on all over the state, initiated, planned and put into place by youth resource officers. In Brimbank, the youth resource officer there has helped start a backyard rugby competition for Pacific Islander youth and police. It aims to build a rapport between the two groups that have some fun and to have some fun while they're doing it. Other youth resource officers have set up football and soccer teams. Some other projects initiated by youth resource officers around Victoria include involvement in Operation New Start. It's a proactive intervention program aimed at 14 to 17-year-olds who are at risk of offending or leaving school early. The 8-week course is based on physically and mentally challenging outdoor education opportunities, exposure to post-secondary college vocational and educational opportunities, and developing teamwork, leadership and practical life skills. It's designed to challenge therapeutic adventure and personal development to assist the youths in achieving their full potential. Youth resource officers are also proactive in holding conferences about Schoolies Week and the Blue Light Discos to share the best ideas and initiatives to make these events successful and safe for youth. Also in Victoria Police, we have a number of activities around building teamwork and leadership. And in Burundara Police have taken a group of at-risk youths to walk the Kokoda track. I'm actually patron of another Kokoda project which is run out in the city of Moonee Valley that's been going now for about 4 years, and where children from lesser socio and economic areas have been given the opportunity to go with police and other volunteers to walk the Kokoda track. Again, it's to build their life skills, it's to build their teamwork and to demonstrate some leadership. And these particular programs have been extremely successful. And this year again, we will be going back to Kokoda later in the year.